Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. We're here today with a replay, myself participating in a German-speaking tournament. Not that I necessarily speak German, but, Google Translate goes a long way, and I was invited to participate. So, yeah, I wanted to go ahead and do it, as they say, since it is a play-on-your-own-time type tournament, which works great for my schedule. So I've gone with the Empire here. Volkmar the Grim leading the way against the Wood Elves. We've gone with a very heavy cavalry-centric build. 4 Empire Knights, 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun. Got 4 veteran State Troop Spears, along with 2 Pistoliers, 3 Pistoliers out to the flank, and a Bright Wizard on foot. For my Wood Elf opponent, he's got a Glade Lord here, a melee Glade Lord with the Helm of Discord, a pretty rush-oriented build with Wild Riders with shields, quite a few melee units as well, some War Dancers, Dryads, Spear Dancers as well, a couple of Deepwood Scouts, Winterheart Guards, the unbreakable ROR Spears, and some more Spear Dancers. So you can see this is one of the island type maps where it's kind of like a 3-lane type deal. I'm going to be maneuvering my infantry up to try and force this engagement here. It's not ideal. I want to be able to use my cavalry out in the open field, but this type of a situation, I'm going to have to fight the Wood Elves in a little bit of a hotgates type situation here, but we still have this flanking force. You can see I'm moving up and around with the Knights of the Blazing Sun, preparing to kind of come in with a flanking force here. These Pistoliers also just kind of maneuvering, keeping some of my opponent's units occupied. If we can maybe draw these Winterheart Guards into a bit of a shooting concave, that would be nice, but Volkmar is leading the charge here. My opponent's gone with a bit of a rush-oriented build, and I've also gone with a bit of a rush-oriented build, so yeah, although my opponent doing a good job here maintaining kind of a defensive position near the woods. Obviously, all of his units have that Forest Strider attribute, but a nice banishment as the charge comes in. Both sides just going straight at it. A nice charge, very cost-effectively from these Empire Knights on those War Dancers. They will start to pay for themselves very quickly there. Volkmar also coming in with his buffs. I unfortunately did not bring the attack buff. My opponent's going to respond here with a very nice Penumbral Pendulum right down the line. But I have my own wind spell, of course, with Burning Head. So we're going to overcast that. And yeah, this Burning Head does a lot of damage to the Wood Elves. Unfortunately, my units, having the heavier armor still did take quite a bit from that Penumbral Pendulum, but you can see both sides just taking horrendous losses in that engagement there, and everyone dying and running away except for pretty much Lords and these Wild Riders here. These Sword Dancers push through. They're cutting up quite a few of my Spearmen. The extra melee defense from those Chevrons definitely coming in pretty key there. But if we look over on the side here, you can see this cavalry force is taking a nice flank here. The Pistoliers able to outmaneuver, get up and around the side here, start to shoot up these Winterheart Guards, and also just kind of force them out of position so that we can get through, start to occupy these Deepwood Scouts. Yeah, so far so good. These 2 Empire Knights came back from route. They're going to help take out these Wild Riders here, countercharge back in. Wild Riders do have a very good charge bonus, but with Volkmar also coming through to provide some support buffs. Granted, the melee Glade Lord is doing his best to try and put some hits on Volkmar as well. But so far so good. We managed to rear charge and rout those War Dancers there. The Bright Wizard also fighting in melee. We definitely took some damage on those Spearmen, but that's just fine. Pretty cost effective still. The Pistoliers come through, and in Dov's Pistolier Corps, you're going to be involved in some terrible melee at some point, so best be ready with your saber. And now's the time as they come in to occupy these Deepwood Scouts and just get absolutely killed by Azurai Spears for their efforts, which is just fine. Here come the Knights of the Blazing Sun, though. Gonna try and pull them up and away. Rear charge? I'm not really sure anyway. Looks like we do actually proc a rear charge there. But yeah, my Knights have taken quite a bit of damage. Empire Knights in particular. Knights of the Blazing Sun both are still relatively healthy here. We pulled a pretty good lead on the balance of power, but things are not completely over yet. There's still some Wild Riders and War Dancers over here. There's a few units over here that I'm kind of letting get away. Dryads and Deepwood Scouts. Very nice Pendulum also in that center pocket there, doing quite a bit of damage to all my grouped up Empire Knights. Thankfully, the Knights of the Blazing Sun do have magic resistance, which helps a little bit in this situation. Against that spell or against like the Dryad type units. There aren't too many units with magic damage here. But as it is. The Knights of the Blazing Sun going to be used in a bit of a cleanup duty here, so any units that come back from route, like these Deepwood Scouts, are going to get charged down. And I don't have too many good targets for AoE magic damage at this point, but you can see these few Sword Dancers here are going to get kind of sandwiched in between some of the estate troops in Volkmar. Up on the hilltop, you can see the Glade Lord there trying to rally his troops together. Empire Knights charging through. We're going to throw a banishment up on the hilltop there, try and catch any of my opponent's units. There's just a couple units here for me to catch. But unfortunately, I'm going to do some damage to my own Empire Knights because, of course, you know, Volkmar is pretty grim. But the Winterheart Guards there eat the last of that charge. You can see the Wild Riders hot in pursuit there. The Bright Wizard's still alive. He's taking quite a bit of damage, but definitely being a battle wizard to fight in combat there until the late game. Yeah, you can see he's going to overcast Burning Head here. The overcast damage will shatter his leadership most likely, but it does finish off these War Dancers here more or less. These Azrai Spears as well take a little bit of damage. And of course, the Knights of Blazing Sun charging straight through the fire and flames into these units here. Volkmar on his cart. Man, what an epic shot. Absolutely love the Empire. Soulfire raining down. And the Wood Elves, most of their troops are gone. I don't have a ton of great tools for dealing with the Glade Lord, to be honest, besides just mass spears, which they're a little bit behind right now, but the state troops are running in to try and get a bit of a surround blob there. You can see the Dryads, Deepwood Scouts have rallied over here. I do have a handful of Pistoliers as well, so still a bit of a cleanup phase. Balance of power has actually pulled back in the Wood Elves' favor quite a bit as my Empire Knights and some other units have been routed. And the Bright Wizard, of course, took a bunch of damage. The fact that this Dryad's still here and fighting is quite a bit on the balance of power. And Volkmar is getting to his healing cap. He has taken quite a bit of damage. You can see his healing cap is pretty fast approaching there. So Wood Elves have definitely been able to do quite a bit of damage, but the balance power is a little bit falsely inflated here. I mean, maybe if I were to really screw things up somehow, I could potentially lose this. But just with the Knights of the Blazing Sun and Volkmar, I'm pretty confident that I can bring this one home. So we'll keep it nice and close on Volkmar and the state troops as they fight it out here. The Knights of the Blazing Sun are somewhere out in the woods over there cleaning up some Wood Elves, but they'll be back. Male Glade Lord, definitely a nice choice here, and I do like the build for my opponent. Yeah, just ultimately, this is just kind of the Wood Elf problem right now, right? Is that you don't have great tools for dealing with enemy heavy cavalry. Now, I've talked a few different times about various things they could do. One of the bigger things would be to give them a more mid-tier light cavalry option. Just something so that you can compete with the numbers. Like in this engagement, right, if he had, let's say, 4 melee Glade Riders rather than 2 Wild Riders, potentially that melee fight goes a little bit better if he runs in with Helm of Discord, you know, because Empire Knights, they do have good armor and decent charge, but their melee stats aren't that great. So if you nerf them pretty hard in that way, maybe throw in some kind of armor debuff or, you know, some other kind of big AoE effect, then suddenly that those melee Glade cavalry, if you will, would trade pretty effectively with the Empire Knights, and a build like this maybe isn't so scary anymore, because if you can win that engagement or at least trade okay, and I guess my opponent did trade decently well there, but still those 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun ended up being a little bit of a problem. And the elite spear units, I mean, they're okay, don't get me wrong, but they still are just light armor, you know, elves at the end of the day. Pendulum going to come in here. Melee Glade Lord making his stand, and he is going to cut through a whole bunch of these peasants. You can see the peasants. They're not peasants. They're professional state troops, basically. They are going to rout, unfortunately. But here come the Knights of the Blazing Sun in the late game. They're going to come through, and unfortunately not quite winged hussars, but that's okay. They're going to rout that Glade Lord. Meanwhile, Volkmar is using his Flaming Hammer in some capacity on the Dryad here somewhere. So yeah, that's the end of that one. Well played to my opponent. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that one. Pretty straightforward build from the Empire, but honestly I feel like this kind of heavy cavalry counter rush is a good in a few different matchups, and this is definitely one of them, because as I mentioned, the Wood Elves just can't really handle a volume of heavy cavalry very well. I mean, if you specifically build with like Durthu, maybe you take 2 Treekin and a Tree Man. On this map especially, you could maybe form like a little bit of a box and try and win that way with like 1 or 2 Way Watchers to force your opponent in. Could potentially work out okay. A little bit risky though. The Empire does have a lot of fire damage and armor-piercing missiles and just other tools that are good for dealing with the trees, so it can be a little bit tough in that way. Empire just has such a well-balanced and strong faction, and especially I would say as the premier fire faction, just gives the Wood Elves a lot of problems. The different things you can do. I mean, certainly the Wood Elves, especially in the hands of a good player, have a fighting chance, and you can see my army took pretty horrendous losses, as I mentioned. All the Empire Knights started with 1 XP Chevron, but 2 of them managed to gain another one. I got 88 kills and an XP Chevron here on this Knight of the Blazing Sun. I think these Pistoliers had this one already. I'm not positive on that, but 133 kills on that Bright Wizard. Considering the relatively small model count of my opponent's army here, that's a lot of numbers right there. 95 on Volkmar himself as well, which is what you're looking for there. Definitely great anti-infantry damage, yeah. A lot of infantry killing potential there for my opponent. 115 on this Branch Wraith. Excellent work there. 56 for the melee Glade Lord, considering that he's just an elf on a horse with a bow and a sword. That's pretty pretty impressive. 110 kills as well for the Azrai Spears. They got some chevrons going on. Definitely got some really good work done. 86 kills and some chevrons for these War Dancers as well. So definitely did decently there. It's just the Wild Riders ultimately aren't cost effective in this situation, even though it facilitated him getting some good kills with the Branch Wraith. Again, if you just had like 4 units of half price, right? If you got 4 units of like 550 rather than 2 units of 1100 or whatever, something to that effect, just having that more numbers would allow you to contest this a little bit better. You can see that literally the difference in units is 2 units, right? In terms of what we brought on our armies, so that would actually make up the difference, right? Just a little bit of food for thought, something to think about. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know I sure did. I will be casting the other games in this tournament as I play them, so be sure to subscribe if you want to see more. Click that bell notification button. Thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time.